Here we go. The trade deadline edition of our popular new segment, Harvey's Hot Takes with Bryan Hayes. Each week, Bryan dishes out takes as hot as a Harvey's original burger. Let's see that burger. There it is, flying across the screen. Bryan, we're going to start with the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Going for it once again. Your immediate thoughts when you saw Darren Dreger break down and break the Noah Hanifin deal?
My initial thoughts, Jay, it was actually a question that I think a lot of people in the hockey world are asking. How does Vegas keep getting away with this? I have so much appreciation for it, but I'm so confused every time they are involved in a massive transaction featuring a great player at a high salary cap. It's like, are they working with different rules? Have they found a way to create cheat codes that the rest of the league doesn't have? Yet I have such a massive appreciation for it. I'm incredibly jealous of it, to be quite frank. I'd use an Anchorman analogy. I feel like Wes Mantooth and their Ron Burgundy, and it's the end of the movie where it's like, God, I hate you, Vegas, but damn, do I have respect for you, because they constantly are going for it, right? It started with the owner. I got to give credit to Bill Foley. He flies in before the game on his helicopter. It's over the top. It's obnoxious. But the second he established this team and paid the price for it in Vegas, he put forth a demand to be hyperactive and hyper-focused on winning and improving your team every single year. George McPhee obviously took that. He brought in Kelly McCrimmon. And when you consider what they've done through 6.5 years of existence, Jay, as a guy from Toronto, as a Canadian, the Leafs obviously have not had a 6-year run like this in 50-plus years. A Canadian team hasn't won a cup in 30 years. It's amazing how they consistently do this. And for them to bring in Hanifin, there's rumors they're in on a lot of the other big-name players who are still available. It's incredible how they keep going at it. And honestly, it's to a point where they're embarrassing a lot of teams in the league.
Yep.
Because you see and hear from a lot of GMs and a lot of owners who just say, sorry, there's nothing we can do. Hard salary cap, nothing we can do. No movement clauses, no trade clauses, nothing we can do. And Vegas says, actually, there is something you can do. You just have to put your mind to it, and you have to have the courage to pull it off. And they're so creative. They have that vision. All they want to do is win. And the fact that they've won a cup already, they've been to 2 cup finals, and they're only into their 7th year in existence. Again, I'm Wes Mantooth. They're Ron Burgundy. I'm incredibly jealous, but I give them all the credit in the world, and I wish other teams in the league would pay attention to it and follow suit.
Excellent take. Boy, that no state income tax really helps you when you're in Nevada and Florida. Bryan, we saw a really interesting hockey trade Wednesday. It's actually the most interesting trade of Wednesday for me. Casey Mittelstadt, excellent young forward for Buffalo, traded to Colorado for an excellent young defenseman in Bowen Byram. Now, we know how much the Toronto Maple Leafs need defensemen. They'd like a right-shot defenseman. Byram's not that. But did this deal show you that maybe there is a path for the Leafs acquiring that defenseman that they've seemingly needed all season?
Yes, absolutely. This is a creative deal, and the Leafs need to find their Bowen Byram, right? Like you said, Jay, he's a left-shot defenseman, and now he's a Buffalo Sabre, so I don't think the Sabres are going to flip him up here. But what this means, and what I mean by this, is there's so much focus in Toronto, and there always has been, on a quick fix, right? On the trade deadline, on a rental player. Bring in a guy who's 32, 33, 34, who might be at the end of their road, and is going to be a UFA at the end of the season, and throw away a first-round pick or multiple picks or high-end prospects to simply patch it together. And what Buffalo and really Colorado, that's the example to use. Buffalo, you never really know where they're going, and I like Bowen a lot. I like him as a player. I'm curious to see what they end up doing there. But Mittelstadt going the other way. Colorado won a couple of years ago, right? They're in the mix. They are a cup-contending team here, and they said, we're going to trade a piece we like in Byram, and we're going to bring in a piece we need in Mittelstadt. They needed help up the middle of the ice.
Yep.
They didn't trade a first or prospects or whatever and go get Wenberg or go get Henrique. They brought in a younger guy they think can fit, and I think the Maple Leafs need to take a page out of that book, right? And whatever it's going to cost, you can justify it if you bring in what you need. If it's Matthew Nyes being this example's Casey Mittelstadt, use him to bring in another piece. It doesn't have to be Easton Cowan. Doesn't have to be a first-round pick. Get creative. Hockey trades still can and will happen in this league. And if you're willing to give up on guys who you like, but you're bringing in guys who are also young, either in their prime or just entering their prime in primary positions. And with the Maple Leafs, it's a very obvious position that they need to address. That is defense. I'd love to see Brad Treliving and company take a page out of the book of the Colorado Avalanche, and here, I guess, the Buffalo Sabres as well, and be thinking the same way. It doesn't have to be chasing the Tanevs or the Walkers, the guys we've seen traded who are pending UFAs and veteran guys. Go get a younger piece, and it might be uncomfortable. It might be a Knies, right? It might be a guy up front that you really, really like. But sometimes you got to pay the piper, and I think it'll be worth it in the end because the young guy you bring in, he can grow here, he can flourish. You can likely win with him in the future as well, and it's not simply a rental that you're trying to replace again on July 1st.
To quote the great Bob McKenzie, the trade was 1 for 1. All right, Brian, I've got one last question for you. Which of these 3 phrases is your least favorite? All in, as in a team is all in for the playoffs. The price is high, which we've been hearing a lot at this deadline, or, quote, treat it like a Game 7. Which of those 3 phrases, Bryan Hayes, is your least favorite?
Well, a lot of these are time sensitive, and I will admit, all in drives me crazy around the trade deadline because it's such an empty calorie comment, Jay, right? Everyone just throws it out. Well, you got to be all in, and then you follow it up with, okay, what does that mean? Well, it just means all in. Okay, what? It's a catchy phrase, but what does that mean? Oh, it's just all in, and then they walk out of the room. But for me, treat it like a Game 7 when it's literally not a Game 7 makes my blood boil. I think it's the stupidest comment in pro sports. You'll hear that game 14 of the regular season in November. Got to treat it like a Game 7 tonight. We've lost 3 in a row. You can't do that. It's not possible. The reason Game 7 is so special is because it's Game 7. You can't treat other games that are not Game 7 like a Game 7. So if it were up to me and I had these powers, if I could pull a Thanos and just snap my fingers and make a phrase disappear, it would undoubtedly be treat it like a Game 7.
So remember, Leaf fans, when your team plays the Bruins on Thursday night, don't expect them to treat it like a Game 7. You know, just like Harvey's serving Canadians for 65 years, this guy, Bryan Hayes, has been treating this show like a Game 7 since 1983 when he was born. Fun fact, Bryan was born in 83. TSN was born in 84. Coincidence? You decide. Thanks, Bryan.
Hot Fix is brought to you by Harvey's. Crispy Chicken BLT, topped your way. It's a beautiful thing.